next person I'm bringing on is Max Green. Is
Hello.
he there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Max, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. I've been listening to.
Hi, Max.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm just amazed by everyone's stories. Literally, I think getting on to what Laurie and Melissa have been saying as well. I think the biggest untapped resource with autism is parents. I saw a conference that was happening the other day, and it said professionals only. And someone commented, can I join as a parent? And they said, sorry, it's only for professionals. And I think, if anything, parents are probably more professional than anyone else, because if anyone's ever going to understand how your autism affects you, it's always going to be your parent, because they live through it with you day to day. So I think it's the biggest untapped resource out there, really. A bit about me. So I've got autism, ADHD, OCD, and epilepsy. So I always say the doctor loves me, basically, trying to find me something else to give me. Literally, it's just like, what ain't you got? Oh, all right, we're at that now. But I mean, I've not really known any different. I mean, you know, growing up was tough because, you know, school, I didn't really, educationally wasn't the brightest. I was always rubbish for sports, so making friends was tough. Socialising was tough. All of it was really hard for me when I went to school. It probably, and again, I was that kid, you know, that threw chairs across the classroom and hid under tables and got 5 minutes off special time at the end of the week because I hadn't done this or I hadn't done that. So, yeah, it was really tough, and tough for my mum as well, because, you know, my mum would have to go down to school every week or so and say, you know, he's got this, he's got that, to the point where my mum actually suggested, before I got diagnosed, you know, I think that he's got autism. And the teacher turned around to my mum and said, he's not got autism, he's just naughty. And that was the response she got. You know, especially you going back years and years and decades ago, you know, they did think autism, if you were autistic, they did used to blame the parents. You know, you'd be a bad mother if your son had autism or your daughter had autism. Unlikely daughter, because, you know, I hate the phrase it's uncommon in girls, because it's not uncommon in girls. I think it's because it's massively undiagnosed because of the stigma with it. So people think, oh, it's not as common, so they haven't got it, when clearly there are people that do. So yeah, I mean, growing up was tough, and I found out each condition like at a time. You know, I found out my autism first and my ADHD. My OCD affected me quite a lot with the obsessions that I got over the years. It went from poison to, you know, germs, all the way to weight, all the way to bad luck, to the point where I was, you know, up at 12 o'clock at night doing rituals and thinking if I didn't do them, you know, mum would die and dad would die and things like that. So that was quite stressful. When I went to secondary school, I was then kicked out of that school, sent to what they told me was an autistic school. But when I got there, there was a complexity of people there, different range of people that went through all different things. You know, there was people there with anger issues. There were people there with traumatic experiences that happened with their life. There were people in gangs in different boroughs of London. The school could physically restrain people if they got angry, or you know, there's some people with autism there that had a meltdown, when really looking back, they shouldn't really be restraining anyone who's having a meltdown unless they're, you know, going to hurt themselves. And it was a tough environment. It really was, because yeah, you know, luckily I have meltdowns, but I think I get more upset in mine more than angry. So it's really tough seeing, you know, people go through that, and you know, there is a lot of lack of knowledge with teachers as well. You know, they don't know what to do. They're scared to what to do. You know, they don't understand it fully. some of that's because of training, some of that's just because, you know, some people just don't understand and don't think some people ever will. But when I went to that school, you know, the school didn't offer any qualifications, which was didn't offer any GCSEs, so I left school with kind of bare minimum of qualifications. And when I was at the school, I even had a teacher that turned around to me and said, you know, anyone that says you can do anything in life are liars. And you know, that was again like, oh, okay, I can't do what I want to do. But I think if anything, that drove me to prove him wrong. You know, I spent a good 10 years proving him wrong. So when I left school, I got some work experience at an IT company. So I do IT full time, but then I wanted to become an actor. I heard a bit about Orlando's experiences going to theatre and all that, which is brilliant, you know. But with me, I think, you know, what I struggled with was the concept of leaving home and also the qualifications, because I just didn't have anything. So anyway, long story short, I started doing some plays in Newbury, and I loved them. And one of the people who was doing makeup said, we're doing some makeup for a show on Glue. So she said, we're looking for extras. So I went up there and mixed with all the actors. And anyway, there was a rope separating the actors and the extras. And me being me, I just went over the rope and started pretending to be a main actor that was going to be joining next week, and just got all their details. And, you know, within 2 years of emailing literally every casting director in the UK and Ireland, someone from Holby City come back to me and said, you know, we're auditioning for this part, would you be interested? So I went up and I was shaking, and I was like, don't shake now, shake afterwards. And it was like a main role for that episode. And anyway, I got the part, and a lot of the work I do now, I do a lot of acting, and a lot of the characters I play do have autism. So it's really rewarding as well, because you're also spreading awareness, and sometimes you go in and a director will be like, oh, I think he should be doing this, and then I can go, oh, I don't think that would happen. You know, the stigma again Laurie was talking about was like, you know, we don't have empathy, we don't look people in the eye. It's actually like, actually a lot of the people I meet with autism have more empathy because they almost have to learn it. So and I think I fell in love with acting as well, because that's all I've been doing my whole life. You know, a lot of the social skills and a lot of the stuff that I've had to learn, I've had to adapt that and act a certain way to get by in life. You know, the world hasn't adapted around me. I've really had to adapt around the world and what it's like. But since doing all the acting, I also do some public speaking, which is where I met Vanessa. So I started doing a campaign for the National Autism Society, where it showed people with autism, there's only 16% of people with autism in full-time work, and that hasn't changed for 10 years. So one of the campaign, and by the way, government don't take track of that number either. It was the National Autism Society that took track of the number. So the government have now agreed to take number of that now. Beforehand they didn't. So a lot of the campaign was focused around that. So I do a lot of speeches now and do a lot of ambassador work really for the National Autism Society, but also do some work on my own and yeah. Just quickly as well, I think how coronavirus has affected me is a lot of the changes in society, a lot of the rules. It's very hard for me to get my head around what I can do, what I can't. You know, it's also inspirational to see all the people that have come together, you know, through the NHS workers and all of that kind of stuff's really good. But also so many injustices that have happened, you know, with the death of George Floyd and also, you know, the lack of, I suppose, care with people with special needs in care homes and things like that has been really discouraging. What's been hard for me as well is, you know, I can't do the speeches and I can't raise the awareness as much as what I want. And also it makes me feel like there's a lot of work that's been put in that now is going to be reversed because, the country is going to be so focused on trying to get everything back to normal. Whether that normal is good or not, I don't know. That there's a lot of things that need awareness, like Black Lives Matter, like the autism, like homelessness, like knife crime, like all of this stuff. There's so many causes that need to be raised, and obviously mine is more focused with the autism. It does worry me if we're going to lose sight of that. And obviously I'm going to do my best, just as much as I think all of you guys that spoke today, and Vanessa and Paul and all of you, Orlando, Laurie, Melissa. I think you're all going to be part of that journey to make sure our voices are still heard. So thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you.